Danny, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
I'm gonna open our conversation with the fact that 20 minutes before we have this conversation, you just texted me, you just DM'd me, and saying, "Hey, I'll be late a little bit," and then I just saw your message, so I sent you a message. It was in August 2024. It was last year. I enjoyed one of your content. I wasn't sure anymore which content it was, but then I mentioned you. I somehow shared about my experience with meditation, with Vipassana, and then I think I ended up the message with like, "Cheers from fellow seeker." So I was just egoistically gives you a label like that you are a fellow seeker. So the first question will be, do you resonate with that seeker title?
Absolutely. I mean, seekers, I think is inherent to who I am and what I've done. And I think following the thread of what is inside of you requires you to seek and to have a curiosity about what it is that is true for you. So yeah, that completely resonates. What was the moment for you where you noticed you were a seeker?
Oh, it was that Vipassana moment. So to give you a little bit context, it was 2015. Mm, my dad, I need to give you a little bit context about my dad because he raised us. He wasn't, I would say at that point, he was an angry man when I was a child, you know. So I had a lot of fear towards him. Mm, he was a seeker because now that I'm an adult, I saw his effort in reading books, studying different types of religions. And then he found Vipassana, and he mentioned to me about Vipassana at that time. With it, the eyes were so bubbly, and I saw that he got softer, you know. So his anger kind of like melted down. And me at that point, I was like, I lived in Germany, he lived in Indonesia. So when he explained about it, I was like, yeah, yeah, whatever, like I don't understand a word. But then I had a free time between after finishing my bachelor before my master study began. So I said to myself, let me join it. So then at least I can have a conversation with my dad.
Mm.
I'm not over exaggerating if I tell you that that was a life changing moment for me, because that was the first time where I understand deeper about ego. And what I message you as well, that was the first time where I understand that our thoughts and our feelings are not us. Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And what strikes me is the connection you got with your dad about that. Uh, what a beautiful experience. What an amazing uh, thing that you did as well of going into it. You could have rejected it forever, and it could have been one of your regrets in life.
We discussed before about the idea of universe hugging us, right?
Yeah.
Bro, that was the moment where I really felt like, okay, now looking back, that was definitely the universe was hugging me, you know, because that is such a life-changing experience for me that allows me to do the work that I'm doing today. So I work with men as well. I help them to explore the inner world, and because in my own experience and in my observation, of course, I'm talking in a general way, but we men, we fight. Fight is not the accurate word. We are not used to looking inward because of the stigma, because of men don't cry. We are here to provide our family and all of those things, what we should do, right? So these are the barriers that were there, and I experienced a taste of letting down the barrier and then actually looking inside and how beautiful and painful sometimes, because it's not always sunshine and rainbow when you start looking at the truth. But the more you do it, the more I see that there's actually no other better strategy, or there's no other options than doing so.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, I think following that, following the inner thread, following what is true to you and your experience, I think you're completely right. As men, it's easier to stuff it down.
Mhm,
For me at least, growing up, no one taught me to the benefits of exploring my inner world and how much that could actually uh, provide for me. I remember the few times where things went wrong and my parents would say, "Oh, you should go to a therapist to talk about some of this." And every time I did that, I would come away so much lighter. And it
mhm,
was only, I would say, a handful of times, but just those 5 times where I got the opportunity to explore my inner world in a beautiful way where I knew I was held and safe and I could say whatever I wanted, those were really important moments for me. And so, yeah, what if every day is a chance to explore your inner world? What if that's just a part of our being, the same way we know that it's good for us to go to the gym? It's good for us to explore our inner worlds. And that's obvious to me at this current juncture in my life. But it was not obvious for me for 24 years. So, yeah, it's really cool that you got that experience. You got that experience with your dad. You know the benefit of that. You teach others and show others the importance of that. Like, this is really important stuff from my vantage point, and it's what I'm going to be spending the considerable amount of time in the future to discuss, to detail, to help people understand. It's cool to look at your inner world. It's actually, your life depends on it.
mhm.
So,
Mhm, mhm.
yeah,
It's almost like you're eating something so tasty, and then you just like, "Hey, please try this as well, you know? Please
yeah,
try this." Be open-minded to experience this, and then once you experience it, it's almost something that, and then we don't even have to talk with words again, so we understand each other, because then it's based on that experience. It's like, I know you know situation, you know?
absolutely. And I think the reason why we don't look is we're scared. Or the reason why I have not looked in the past is because I've been scared. I don't want to uncover this block. I don't want to uncover this judgment because what does that mean? For me, it meant, okay, the way that I'm living is not correct. And that forces me to confront all of the places that I've been living in a lie. And
Mhm.
so for me, what softened it so much was just setting the timer every day for 20 minutes in the morning with my eyes closed, with my back straight against the wall, and doing that consistently. I became so much softer, like you said, and so much more powerful in the process of just sitting with myself for 20 minutes a day and not expecting anything miraculous to happen. There's no magic that's going to happen after one session, potentially. There might be. I hold in my mind and in my heart satori, instant awakening, but if nothing happens after 20 minutes, that's okay. Something is happening, but it's okay if you believe that nothing is happening. And I think what I've seen is that people, their expectations around meditation is incorrect, and thus they don't do it because their expectations are wrong. The mere act of you sitting is the win. The mere act of you spending time with your inner world allows you to create space where otherwise there was no space, there was no knowing. And so I've seen it time and time again, people saying, I didn't do that meditation right, or I didn't get an insight, or I didn't get any clarity, or it doesn't matter. You showing up to the gym for 60 minutes in a day does something. It does something. So the same thing is true for you sitting down with your thoughts for 60 minutes and just letting them go wherever they're supposed to be. Thanks
You
for
know
coming to
how
my
I
TED Talk.
yeah. How I describe it, it's like, when you meditate, you spend time with yourself. It's actually just like going on a date with yourself.
Yes.
If you're going out on a date with a girl or with someone else, you're not using it to achieve something. The date itself is the experience, and it's done, you know. And once you're using the date to achieve something, you know that that's an indicator that you are just almost, I'm going to use the word manipulating the experience itself. It's just like meditation. If I see meditation as a date with myself, the action itself is already the thing, the
That's
experience. I'm not using it as a tool to reach enlightenment and then I can perform better and then whatever it is that I would like to achieve in the outer world, right?
Yeah. People say, okay, if I have thoughts, that means it wasn't a good meditation. The purpose
Mhm.
of meditation is to have no thoughts. I say, if you find moments of having no thoughts, that's incredible. And I'm here for that. And you thinking thoughts is the equivalent of you sweating at the gym. It's just a natural byproduct of being with your mind. It's just a natural byproduct of you moving your body is you sweating. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing bad about that. That's just the process. Let's just accept the process because the process makes you a more powerful, more embodied, more incredible human being, more authentic, more true, more real, more loving. Are these things? These are things for me that are invaluable. I can't put a price tag on that. And I'm sure it's the same for you. I'm sure it's the same for the people who work with you. What's the price on the truth and living in the truth on a moment to moment basis?
Mhm. 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 Were you always able to see yourself with compassion?
I don't think so. No, I don't think so. I think that's something that I've built over the years. And I think that maybe I was born with that, but then I lost it, but then I got it back. And I think two things have really contributed to that the meditation itself and the I Love Myself practice by Kamal Ravikant that I still do to this day from his book, Love Yourself Like Your Life Depends on It. Every day, there are many moments throughout the day where I will just repeat, I love myself. 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 And when you start this process, when I started this process, I didn't necessarily believe that. But by virtue of honoring and repeating, my subconscious started to believe it and divine moments started to happen. And so, yeah, I I would say that's probably something that I had growing up, lost in the middle school, high school, college era of my life and gained back after discovering meditation and the affirmation of I love myself. What about yourself? What's that process of compassion been like for you?
Oof, I got goosebumps. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Slowly. Compassion to myself. What type of question are we talking about, man? This is so tough question. Compassion to myself. Um, the answer is definitely it didn't come natural to me. Mm, I I had a lot of insecurity when I was younger. I had a lot of insecurity and mostly in the early years when I was at school because of my physique. I'm I don't know in American numbers, but I'm 1 meter 60 centimeters, so 1.60.
Doesn't
You
mean
don't know,
anything.
doesn't it? Yeah. So I'm small. I'm not that tall. And then I got bullied because of my height, and then that just like that gave me a lot of insecurity. And when I moved to Germany in Europe, they are even more taller than everyone in Indonesia. And then I was like, I don't think I will ever find love here. I arrive at that point. And subconsciously, I try to compensate that insecurity with actions of looking cool outside. I used to teach dancing, and therefore, all of this acknowledgement from outside. Um, I was hungry for those things because I did not give myself that exact acknowledgement, you know. And definitely through the practice of meditation, I realized that I am trying to fill a hole in myself with the puzzle piece that I get from outside. Now, the problem is the puzzle piece doesn't actually fit. But then I did not know better, so I just tried to push a puzzle piece that actually doesn't fit. And with time, I realized that by doing so, I not only hurt the puzzle piece, which is another person, I actually hurt myself in the process, you know. And then I realized, okay, the puzzle piece is not something that I can get from outside. It's like I have to give myself that puzzle piece. And then the inner work begins, you know, the acknowledgement. And then this one was a big, big task for me, the forgiveness towards myself for the decisions that I made in the past that I'm not proud of, you know, because that also gives like a ripple effect to other people. And then obviously I try to reach out and ask for forgiveness for those that I made a mistake to. And I I told myself that the job is done by saying sorry itself, not by them. I give you my forgiveness, because that's I cannot control that. You know, that will be gambling. That's based on result. I want to do it for myself. And if you do say like, yeah, we both were young and naive, well, then that's the bonus. But my job is done by me acknowledging the mistake I made. So that's a form of building that compassion. So I also needed to build compassion towards myself. And this is a sentence I also say a lot. I needed to practice to see myself through the eyes of compassion.
Hmm. Say that again.
I needed to practice to see myself through the eyes of compassion. Uh,
Powerful. Yeah, it's really powerful. What came up for me just now was the song that I've been listening to by Trevor Hall called Forgive. And it's it's just a beautiful uh, interpretation of exactly what you're talking about. And I love the distinction that you made on that of it's over. The cycle is complete as soon as I acknowledge it and I own it. It's not about how you respond to it, because that's something I cannot control. And you have to, and allowing yourself to genuinely be off the hook for something you did wrong when you feel like I am doing everything I can to make amends with this thing, and I've said my piece and I have closed the karmic loop. Okay, I'm good here. Because you could be in that cycle forever. You could be in that cycle for a lifetime of not making amends. And you have to choose, okay, I'm not happy with how I acted. I'm sorry for how I acted. Please forgive me. And I love you. I love the situation. I love it all. And yeah, that's powerful doing that. So kudos to you.
mm. What's praying for you?
Praying is setting an intention for uh it's a couple of things. Most of my prayers are at meals. That's typically when I pray. And what it often is just saying thank you for all the things that I can think of in that moment. Thank you for, if I was praying in this moment, be thank you for this studio. Thank you for this awesome guy who spent a lot of time working on himself to have this awesome conversation. Thank you for these lights. Thank you for the sun shining this morning. Thank you for an incredible writing session with my friend Talia. Thank you for bringing me this energy that is so sure of the direction that I'm going in my career right now. Thank you for um, the ability to move my body and my body in general, my mind, my excitement for learning. Like this is what I would say if I was praying in this moment. And so prayer to me is around gratitude. Um, it's not for me, not typically something where I'm like, I want this thing in the future, or please give me this thing. Although it has been, um, I've also used a framework called Help, Thanks, Wow. Have you heard of this by Anne Lamott?
Mm,
Basically, it's a simple way and structure that anyone can use to pray. The first line or the first paragraph of your prayer is help. Please help me with something, God. The second line is thank you. Thank you for this thing, God. And the last line is wow. Wow. I'm in awe of this, God. Thank you. So, like, an help, thanks, wow. Just 3-step process. You can do it right now. You can pause this podcast. You can pause this moment and you can do help, thanks, wow, wherever you are. Where, for me, the most resonant is the thank you. I'm not typically asking for help. I'm not typically um, saying wow. The wows happen naturally. The help happens in any moment. But that's just a framework you could use. Anyone could use.
mhm. What what type of feeling do you experience after after you pray? So let me give you a little bit of context behind that question and why I ask about praying. Mm, I used to pray. I used to demand,
Mm.
give me A, B, C, D, E until Z.
Yeah.
Like I want this, I want this, I want this. And then um, at one point, I realized that grat my type of praying currently is similar with what you mentioned, which is focused on gratitude. It's just crazy how cool it is to have the chance to become better, to kind of like level up, to play this game of life that we are having right now, to live in this era. It's just so many things that I can be so grateful for. And if I do ask for something, it's I usually ask for guidance. I usually ask for guidance. And then back to the question, what do you feel usually after you pray? Because for me, in the way I was praying before, I was asking for something and it was not there. So then I became mad, like, where is it? I have been praying for abundance, for patience, for whatever, until I change it into I ask for guidance. And then I realized when I ask for patience, the answer is not going to be like tomorrow, everything is sunshine and rainbow. It's not going to be like that, but it's, probably there will be more people that's going to go on my nerves because there lies the chance for you to become patient. That's actually the answer to your prayer, you know. And so, yeah, back to the question. How do you feel after you pray?
I think that's a beautiful explanation, right? If you pray to be more loving, you're probably going to find things that you don't love so that you can get the opportunity to love. Um, Typically, what I feel after prayer by myself or with someone is stillness. I feel a heightened sense of stillness and appreciation for the current moment. I can actually feel it. It's wild where we'll be talking, we'll be chatting, and then the food will be ready to be eaten. Someone will say a prayer, I'll say a prayer. And there's just this brief moment where no one's speaking, where I can feel there's a difference in the energy in the room. It's such a beautiful feeling. And I pray that more people can tune into that, or that there's an opportunity. Just notice it. Try to notice it next time you pray with one or more people. See what happens. See what happens directly after. Just be in that energy field for 1 second and you'll notice they're slightly different. I host a meditation at my place on Sundays sometimes. And yesterday, around 20 people came over. And this hour-long meditation felt for me like 30 minutes because it was just all of the energy of stillness. Everybody tapped into the same energy field. It was so powerful. I didn't want to leave. I didn't want the meditation to be over. It was just a sense of, wow, what a beautiful thing that all these people are looking at their inner worlds. All these people are connecting to God. All these people are in their own way praying for whatever is coming up in their consciousness. So that's how I view prayer in this current moment. And I, I love it. I love it so much. And I love the fact that it's always available.
Mhm, mhm, mhm. You mentioned, I think that you applied for Vipassana, right? Did you do Vipassana?
I never ended up doing Vipassana, but I did apply for it.
Mhm, 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 mhm. Are you interested too?
Yeah, it has less of a pull over me in this moment. I've been thinking about just sitting for a week at an Airbnb or something with,
Mhm.
minimal books and just I've done that in the past and found real enjoyment from it. Um, I don't feel so connected to doing a Vipassana right now.
And have you always enjoyed your own presence?
I think it's directly related to the compassion to myself. Um, I I definitely have not always enjoyed my own presence. But the more time you spend with someone, the deeper you get to know them, the more it feels great to be with them because you can see your own flaws, you can see your own strengths, you can embody what you would like to embody. You can improve, you can change, you can transform. And you love the current version of yourself and you're excited for what the current version of yourself is going to create. So, yeah, it's been a cool journey, but for me, it's directly related to hours meditated. The more time that I've spent with myself, the more connected I feel to myself, the more I enjoy my own presence.
Mhm,
And
mhm,
and coincidentally, the more other people enjoy your presence as well. That's the funny part. It's like if you genuinely appreciate you, you just want to give that feeling of appreciation for yourself to someone else, which makes them appreciate you more.
mhm,
I love myself and everybody loves me. Start
mhm,
saying that to yourself on a consistent basis. I
mhm.
love myself and everybody loves me. Watch what happens.
And I think there's also an inspiration part of it because it almost kind of you feel or you see when you are with someone who's enjoying his own or her own presence. So it's kind of like you don't know why, but it seems like uh maybe at first it's almost kind of like I want to have what he has or what she has.
Right.
And then once you go deeper, it's not rare that it's not that what he has is not something material or whatever, but it's that deep connection with oneself. That's the inspiration part, I think.
Yes. I I I completely could see that it could turn some people off of, oh wow, that's someone who likes themselves or that's someone who loves themselves. I don't want that. That's not my type of person. But um that's something to look at yourself if you'd like to take that opportunity for growth. I'm curious about you and the um you said you moved to Germany and you thought you'd never find love. That to me implied that there was some love that you did find in Germany. And if not, you found love with yourself. So I'm curious about that journey of finding love in Germany.
Hmm. So it was coming back to the decisions that I made that I wasn't proud of. I was trying to look for love from outside. And in the past relationship, I became a, what do you call it? Overprotective kind of guy, overly jealous, because in my eyes, now that I look back, that relationship was the missing puzzle piece. So if that puzzle piece is going to be taken away by another guy, well, then I'm going to be left here alone. Right. So the interesting thing is, this is everything happens after meditation, after I understand the way of looking inward. I believe in the law of attraction, that you attract what you are. And therefore, the type of people that were attracted to me at the moment where I was not hungry for love from outside anymore, different type of people, than before, you know. And therefore, for me, self-love is the first step. It's almost, you cannot directly jump to the second step, which is, I want to love others, I want to give, I want to serve others, without self-love, because that's definitely not sustainable, right? So, answering your question, how was my love journey here in Germany? It's because of that blessing that I experienced, and I started giving that compassion towards myself. Everything kind of like falls, it is definitely, I'm a working in progress, and I will always be until the last breath, but it's a way more conscious journey.
Uh, can you give us an example from your life where you noticed externally people are loving me more in a place where they typically weren't, based on your own love for yourself?
So, for example, because I mentioned to you, I teach dancing in the past, right?
Yeah.
And it was hip hop, so I was this cool guy, da 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 da, and then every weekend we used to go to a club and da
You'd
da
be
da
the
da da.
cool guy no matter if it wasn't hip hop.
So yeah, we went to the clubs, and then I remember just wanting to, you know, um, get girls, so then I can hang out with the boys and tell them on how cool I am, right? And that's just after, again, after practicing compassion towards myself, after understanding this on a deeper level, I was like, so almost all the decisions that I made, regarding in a relationship, romantic relationship, it was based on a very, very shaky foundation, and therefore, like, I was super clingy, and I was super jealous, and that was just a different life quality that I had before. And to close the circle, what happened after, um, because I don't have the need of having someone by my side just to make me feel complete, I was able to communicate it clearly with my current partner as well. I'm not looking for a better half. I'm not looking for that. You are a full person. I'm a full person. I want you to blossom in your person as your person. I want you to support me as well in me blossoming as my own person. And in that journey, let us hold hands,
Mm.
and then we have this little garden in the middle, but I don't want you to leave out everything just to be my wife or whatever, and I also don't want to do that. I want us to blossom as a person and get as close as possible to ourselves, and we will see that will benefit our relationship as well.
That's a
did i
beautiful, yeah.
did I answer your question, man?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a beautiful way of being. And I'm going to be most myself, and you're going to be most yourself. And I would imagine ideally that ends up with both of you being together, but also it sounds like that's a possibility of you guys not ending up together. And that's okay. If you say to yourself, "Okay, I'm my own person," your own person implies that you could make whatever decision you want. And if you are your own person, that implies she can make whatever decision she wants. And so there's a beauty and probably a deep fear for many when they hear that of like, well, if she doesn't love me anymore, does that mean that I'm not lovable? And so it's beautiful that it's either you guys come together in greater depth and greater knowing of each other and greater appreciation of each other, or you go in different directions, and that's okay because you remain intact with your own thread of golden soul inside. So that's an interesting thing. Um, and yeah, it's cool that you guys have that relationship. Very beautiful.
Mhm. And I think it also takes a lot of courage in doing so. And before we are able to communicate it to another person, the job is to get as clear as possible with ourselves, right? What are actually our values? Like, what do we want to have? What is actually our vision? And then if we communicate it, and then that person has the option to say, let's go on this journey together, or I'm not interested in it, right?
Yeah. And
Mm-hmm.
I wonder, in relationships like this, what happens if the vision changes,
Mm-hmm.
from one or
Mm-hmm.
both parties? It's like it
Mm-hmm.
can. That's a possibility. You get to one
Mm-hmm.
fork in the road and say, I don't actually want to go down this road. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, very cool.
That's it. That's I'm as curious about that as you because we are also in this exploration together, like me and my partner, and we're gonna see. And the communication is, as cheesy as it may sound, but communication is the key. So we keep watering the garden that we have together, right?
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. I'm very happy for you in a relationship like that.
Thank you. Um, you mentioned, I'm gonna read this sentence. What we are all here to do is to resolve the thing that we felt like we lacked as a child and give it to the world.
Yes.
What is that thing for you?
That thing for me was emotional guidance and assurance from a male role model. And I will say that I absolutely loved my dad and I absolutely love my grandpa. And those two people were massive and are massive, positive role models for me in different ways. And what I felt like I lacked is also not necessarily the truth of what I lacked, but it's what I felt like I lacked. And it's my truth. And I felt like I lacked emotional guidance and assurance from a male role model, somebody I could talk to about girls, somebody I felt like I could talk to about the deepest things on my heart, somebody who was curious about my inner world. I felt like I didn't have that. Now, I wonder also if I had the tools that I have today, if I actually did have that, right? There, I'm thinking about in present day, I could go to my dad, I could go to my grandpa with these things, but I felt I had a strong sense of feeling like I lacked that. Um, and so that became the thing that weighed down upon me. That became the reason why I recorded 450 plus episodes of a podcast to try to understand and try to get the validation and approval in some sense from male role models. My podcast was 90% men for the guests. Why? Because I deeply desired that role model, that person that I could feel was 100% who understood and saw me completely. So for me, what I feel like I'm here to give is to be an emotionally aware male role model and build on the amazing things that my dad and grandpa gave me, as well as the other uncles that I've had in my life. So um, that's a long way of saying emotional guidance and assurance from a masculine person.
And what would you say the top two qualities that you got from your dad?
From my dad, I got this deep sense of hard work and this desire to protect and provide.
Mm.
I think my dad has that. My grandpa has that as well. Um, and so it's really beautiful to witness that.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um,
And how was the conversation that you had with your dad about what you felt when you like as a child?
I think there was a difficulty to accept
Mhm.
what I was saying is true, and an anger that came about because of uh, how much I would imagine that would hurt to hear. And there was a deep knowingness on my end that I wasn't expecting anything from him. I wasn't needing him to respond or react in any way. and that this was just my truth of my perception, and it likely wasn't true from the God point of view, and it was definitely true from my point of view, and I'm grateful it was, because it gave me this exploration and path to learn about meditation, the map of consciousness, and this desire to help people live with more awe and appreciation for life. Because it was my genuine lack of what I felt. And I spoke to him about it, and he got pretty angry and upset about it. And I was completely at peace with that, because it wasn't about his reaction to me. It
Mhm.
was more about, am I saying the truth of my perception? And how can I do so in a way that is with kindness and compassion? I'm not trying to be a dick to be a dick. I'm just trying to say the truth from my perception so that you understand where I'm at. Um, and I'm so grateful for my dad for so many ways. But
Mhm.
that's the truth of my perception.
Mhm. Do you experience desire where you wish, like, oh, I would wish that he reacted differently, or he would accept this, or he would try to understand this?
Um, in the moment where I shared it with him, and now I feel completely at peace with however he wants to react to it. Um, So there was no desire. But I also felt when you were sharing about your dad doing the Vipassana, I was, oh man, I wish my dad had that same curiosity about his own inner world. And I definitely had that desire and maintain that desire. Um, but yeah, that's probably why I'm so passionate about what I'm passionate about, because I have that deep within me, because I know what it feels like from the child's perspective when the parent is not deeply curious about their own inner world or the inner world of others. And that was my perspective as a child. I don't know if it was necessarily true. I know my dad went to all my baseball games. I know my dad like really supports and cares about me at a deep level. And he has this, from my perception, a lack of understanding of his own inner world, and that is leading to uh, just the lack of interest in others. And I
Mhm.
say that with the attempt at complete neutrality and not
Mhm.
putting him down in any way. That's his way of life, you know, and I love him so much, genuinely.
Mhm. Mhm. If it's okay, I want to share a little bit about
Please,
me and my dad as well.
please.
Mm, for me, he broke this chain of pain. That's how I call it, the generation chain of pain. So I mentioned to you that he was an angry man before, or at least that was my perception of him. And then with Vipassana, I was blessed. And by the way, I am not like, do Vipassana, everyone. No, 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 it's not that. The idea is come closer to yourself, however that may be, and I pray that everyone gets the chance, or everyone is aware, because I think the chances are everywhere, that everyone is aware of this chance and then are courage enough to take the chance to look inside and get closer to themselves. All right, back to my dad. um, After understanding, exploring his inner world, and I also did the inner work, this deep compassion from inside, I just looked at my dad differently, because he gave what he could, and that was his best, you know, and that's it. The intention is that was his best, and that's all that he could give. And now it's just last year when I went back to Indonesia for a vacation, I used to take him out on a date to understand his story better. How was his dad? His my grandpa. I never met my grandpa, and then I know that my grandpa was a soldier, and therefore he parents my dad. He parented my dad with a lot of, like, very strict as well, the way my dad parented us, right? So then I realized my dad is also just a son of a set of parent. he did not choose being a son of that parent, you know? He did not choose consciously, at least, like, okay, I want to be born here, I want to be parented like this. And then this is also his first time being a human. So he's also just a guy trying to figure out life just like I am. So by acknowledging that, I was able to then again, practicing looking through the eyes of compassion also towards others, and that really helped me to huh, coming back to forgiveness. And again, I agree with you that we are talking not from a higher hierarchy point of views. We are more aware, or we are more conscious. It's not about that, but like, I see you, like we are so similar than we are different as a human being having this experience.
Yeah. Yeah. It's beautiful the way that you were able to see your dad more clearly in that
Mm,
way. It's
mm,
fascinating because you just said a couple of things that I think are great perspectives to have. And I also find myself in this moment in time disagreeing with. And and so you said, it's your dad's first time here.
mm,
And and I genuinely believe from the bottom of my heart
mhm,
in this moment that we've all lived thousands of lives.
mhm,
And you also said your dad didn't choose where he was raised or who his parents were. And I
mhm,
genuinely believe in this moment, from the bottom of
mhm,
my heart, that we
mhm,
choose our parents.
mhm,
And I think that it's useful that you came to those conclusions, that to give your dad grace. And those are my current perspectives on reincarnation and um, like choosing our
mhm.
parents and choosing where we were born and choosing this circumstance. What is your perspective on that?
The cool thing is, I don't disagree with you.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like there is a reason, if we talk about karma, for whatever reason I did in my past life, that I met the seed of meditation.
Mm.
I did not. I mean, like, there's just so many little things that has to be aligned for me to meet meditation,
Yeah.
and everything was just perfect at that time, and then I experienced it. And then one more little detail: when I visited Vipassana, it was a 10 days experience, right? Bro, I wanted to go out, but I was broke at that moment. I could not buy ticket way home because I already bought one. So I had to stay until the end. So I was trapped over there.
Wow.
So tell me if it was not the universe hugging me so close and just keeping me to go through that experience.
Yeah.
So coming back to your question, I actually agree that I also see it that way from the things that I learned in Buddhism about karma, the multiple lives, thousands of lives that we have lived. And I mentioned that it is his first time in this life is exact. I think I'm gonna take your words is to give that understanding towards him, and that yeah, we are figuring this out, and maybe hey, we are figuring out not only this one life that we have, but like all of the lives that we had in the past and will still have in the future. We are just figuring out, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. That's so beautifully said. And I completely agree. And it made me think of this quote that uh, I saw on Threads. I've been spending some time on Threads, and I'm going to pull it up real quick. It was, this is a quote from Yogananda, which says, "It takes very, very, very good karma even to want to know God. It takes very, very, very good karma even to want to know God." Yeah, I saw you were up front here, then you went back. That quote, it can hit you. And I feel that at a deep level. I mean, 28 years of my life, atheist, atheist slash agnostic. But I've always felt this deep sense of, um, like, I've done some great stuff in previous lifetimes. I would joke about this with my mom often. I don't know what we did in the past life, but it was really good. Because the life I have and had growing up was incredible. So much love, so much support, so much connection. And my mom felt that as well. And to take it even a step further, to not just have that familial connection and connection with myself, but then to want to know God in the way that I want to know God today, man, I feel so blessed. And I feel like it's because of previous good deeds. I have no other way to explain what I feel inside and the amount of joy and peace and love that being able to witness divine moments and be a part of divine moments and share divine moments. I can't tell you the amount of joy that brings me. It brings me more joy than any amount of dollar, any amount of connection to anybody on this human plane. It really truly is the connection to the divine. And it's why I'm writing the book about what I'm writing about, because it is the most significant thing that's ever happened, is to feel connected to all things. And it takes very, very, very good karma, apparently, to feel that.
Danny, how would you describe God?
In this current moment, right, these things change for me constantly. Two things pop to mind. One is light, perhaps because I just read a near-death experience and posted about a near-death experience that really took me. Um, so that's one thing. Uh, light, God, light. The other thing that hits me in this moment is love. The other is truth. The other is all things that have happened. Everything that has happened and everything that will happen is God. But we know for sure that everything that did happen happened, and it couldn't have happened any other way. So to me, that is a part of God's creation, what has happened. And everything that will happen is also God. And the now is also God. And so you ask me this question tomorrow, I'll give you a different answer. But the connection between all things, that to me is God. The energy field force connecting everything, God. Anything that comes out of that energy field. And yeah, just sit in silence and you you could understand what I'm referring to.
Is it easy for you to trust God?
At this point, yeah, very easy, but at many other points, no. A New York, I was born in New York. And so people born in New York, Long Island, New York City, Westchester, very rational people, very focused on what you can see, what you can feel, that's what's real. That's a gross generalization, but that was my experience. And so for me, I couldn't trust. There's this guy in the sky and he's going to grant wishes and I don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me. What are you talking about? Why are you thanking God after an Academy Award speech or winning a football game? That makes no sense to me. But I really started to trust God when I felt God in moments in my life. Like, how could I explain that I was my friend calls me and says, "Hey, do you want to run this marathon?" And 10 years prior, my dad ran one marathon in his life, and it was that marathon in a place I hadn't been to nor was expecting to go. And then in that marathon, before it, I asked my grandpa, "Hey, grandpa, what should I do for this marathon? What should I expect?" And he says, mile 21 to 23 is where you're going to hit the wall, where it's going to be the most difficult. There's a guy who comes up to me at mile 21 and he says, "Hey, do you want any food, nutrition, water?" He's running in the race. And we run for a couple miles together before he leaves, and his name happened to be Richard, the same name as my grandpa. These things to me are too remarkable for me to say that's not the connection of all things. That is the connection, clearly. How could it not be? And so I trust my experience, and I trust what I know to be true. And for me, God is, it's just so clear. And so trusting the thing that you feel is so clear is easy. It's easy to trust there's a microphone in front of me, right? I don't need to believe it. I don't need to think about it. There's just a microphone in front of me. To me, I know God is present in my life. I know God is present in yours. I know God is present in everybody's life. And so that's something that I could have never said to you or believed 2 years ago. So to answer your question, yeah, it's easy for me to trust God because I've experienced it so many times.
Divine moments.
If I'm writing a divine moment every single day from this year, and I have 200 plus from September 12th to December 31st of 2024, if I have hundreds of these moments written down that brought me awe, appreciation, love, gratitude, that didn't make sense in the moment, but connected to things that otherwise should not have been connected, how could I not trust that force? That force is working for me at all times. And that force is working for everybody at all times. So easy, easy to trust that.
Two things popped in my head. The first one, the fact that we are having this conversation through Tim. Like I have a conversation with Tim Pereira, and we ended up having this conversation. What is that if that's not a divine moment for me? Number one. And the second thing is so many things when we look, not we, when I look at my past and I thought like, what the fuck just happened in my life? At that moment, that was like the worst moments ever. But now I am filled with gratitude that that experience happened. And that just shows me that, okay, I experienced something in the past. Somewhere in the future, I will realize that it's supposed to be like that. So, how about if I then now face a difficulty in my life? How about I just believe it in here and now that this is also how it should be?
Yeah.
And if I'm lucky in the future, I might understand when I'm looking at in a retrospect. But in this very moment, as difficult as it is, this is the best for me. How about if I believe in that?
Yes. You're going to get to that knowing eventually. So why
Mhm.
not just in the moment that it happens?
Yes. Yes.
And that's what wisdom is, right?
Mm.
Wisdom is getting to the conclusion that you were going to get to anyway, but in the moment that it happens.
It's all that we have here and now. Mm. Mm, what has the experience of writing books teach you until now?
It's taught me that unless I have accountability and structure, I'm not going to do it. I've tried writing a book before. I've tried writing a book and it just, I stopped doing it because I didn't have the accountability and the structure in place. I didn't have the knowingness in my heart that this was the most important thing for me to write about in this moment. And it wasn't a priority. And so for me, I know that I am going to have a first draft of this book that I'm writing, Divine Moments, done by April 15th. I know that because I have accountability in place, I have structure in place. I meet every day at 10 a.m. with my friend Talia. We do a writing session, 40 minutes blocked off for writing. I know that I'm enjoying the process. I know that I love the act of writing, and I know I love talking about the thing that I'm writing about. So all of that is very clear. All of that is obvious. And I know that writing is easy. It doesn't have to be a difficult thing. It could be an enjoyment of yourself. It could be a natural expression of who you are. And if I have the story in my head of, I'm not smart enough to be a writer, or um, writing a book is very difficult, or it's going to take a long time, or it's only reserved for a certain subset of people. If I have that, I'm not going to complete a book. And I have the belief, the knowing in my heart that I will write a book. It will be easy, it will be effortless, and it will be widely loved and accepted and appreciated. That's my belief, 100%. That is my knowing. That is my energy while doing this. And so that's uh that's what's going to happen. So I've seen that this is something that I deeply desired to do as a child, and I've seen that when there are things that you deeply desire to do as a child, you sometimes get the beliefs of that time mixed up with your current version.
Oh.
I've never thought about that before. That's pretty good stuff. So
Mhm.
what what could happen? Let's say you want to be uh, a singer, and you wanted to be a singer from age 5 to 15, but then somewhere around high school says singing's not right for me because X, Y, and Z, and I can never make it as a singer. That's not possible. Well, now when you try to be a singer at age 25, you're going to pick back up all the beliefs that you had at age 15 and all the reasons why you quit and all the reasons why you didn't. And now you have to address those beliefs if you would like to proceed in creating a career as a singer or just singing in general. So I think that's something to pay attention to, is if this thing that you're doing is related to something you had as a child, and those are often the things that are the core essences of who we are and what we are here to do, it's important that you're going to also have to reflect on those beliefs.
And how does updating the beliefs looks like for you?
The first thing is awareness. The first thing is becoming aware that you're actually believing this in the first place. Okay, if I am not writing, well, what's the reason for that? Okay, after I've said what I think the reason is, what's the reason for that? After I've said what I think the reason is, what's the reason for that? And going deeper and deeper, deeper and deeper, deeper and deeper, until I have an understanding for something that wasn't on the surface level, but was creating the results of me not writing. It's like, well, I'm scared. One of the things for me was I'm scared that I'm going to write this book and no one's going to read it, or no one's going to care about it, or it's going to be a waste of my time. And it's like, okay, well, that's a fair thing that a 15-year-old version of me would think, right? And it's like, okay, now I've developed as a human. I have more friendship, more network, more connections. I have people who have pre-ordered the book. It's actually not true that that people won't read it because they're already interested in it. Um, and even if it was, what else am I getting from writing this book that is unrelated to any action that anyone can take? Well, I'm getting the appreciation of living in the divine moment, of divine moments more. I'm getting a deeper understanding for the things that I care about, helping create divine moments in my own life. And I get to talk about it by virtue of writing about something. For me, I want to share what is top of mind and exciting for me. So I get to share my excitement. All of that creates the win in and of itself and is more of a reason for me to continue doing the thing that I want to do versus the thing that's going to pull me out of it.
Amazing. And I believe that the quality of vulnerability is also playing a big role in the process, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, what's so cool about vulnerability in particular for me is how meditation has softened me. When we said soften before, when you are less attached to your thoughts, you are less attached to the actions that you have taken, which means you are less likely to want to protect certain thoughts or certain actions, which makes you more likely to be vulnerable because you're going to offer your beliefs, your deep truths that you stuff down because you're less attached to them. The reason why I can share that story about my dad, the reason why I can share that belief about writing a book is because I'm not attached to those stories. And I'm not scared to be judged for those stories. And I'm not believing that those stories are who I am in present day. And the reason for that is because I've meditated and created space for me to say my current truth, which is that those are not my stories. And I can share what my stories were. And I can know that even the stories that I currently have may or may not be true. So there's no need to get attached to them. That creates vulnerability because you're not attached to what you believe right now. So I can share the truth of what I believe, thus leading me to a greater place. It's pretty cool how it all works out, right?
And some people are defending the old story and the old narrative for the whole life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that takes out the playfulness of life. Like you are not allowed to play. You all you have is you just create this, this specific image, and then you are protecting it with your whole life, but then you forget to enjoy life and experience life itself.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really true. It is really true. And when you look at your inner world, you get the opportunity to be vulnerable and to be able to uh, be less attached to any story. Just such a beautiful thing. And play, like you said, you get the opportunity to play. And it's magic. When you play, that's where magic occurs. That's where divine moments occur. When you're playing,
Mm,
when you're playing with life.
amazing. One last question I have for you, Dan. Mm, you mentioned that your brother Max is one of your role model, that you are pretty inspired by him.
Yeah.
And I want to ask if you struggled with jealousy in the past in the terms of, connection with your sibling. Allow me to explain a little bit about my story so you have the context. I have an older brother, so I'm the younger one. And I was jealous of him a lot because he was always the one who he listens to my parents, and I'm the one who's gone at weekend, turn off my phone, come back home being scolded. My phone, my battery is empty. My mom turns on the phone and the battery is just still full. So I am that guy. And I was always jealous because he also went to Germany and studied here. And then I came to Germany. So I felt my perception again. It was like I was living under his shadow, under his wings, you know. And therefore there were this jealousy. And then I did again the inner work. I understand it, but I did struggle with that, with jealousy in my life. And I want to ask, how was it? How would you describe your relationship with your brother in your life?
Yeah. So I would say that thank you for the context on your own life, and I appreciate that. For me, the jealousy that I experienced was unconscious for so long. I wasn't aware that I was jealous of how my brother was free to be who he wanted to be. I was not aware that him being the star in the drama club, which I viewed as weird, was actually, I viewed it as weird because he had the freedom to do what he wanted to do. And I was scared to do what I wanted to do. And instead of looking at that, I just passed that on to him as judgment. And that is jealousy. Now, it's interesting because I actually spoke to my brother yesterday or 2 days ago, and I was telling him, now we're very close and I'm not jealous of him in the slightest. Now it's straight admiration for who he is and how he shows up. This man is the greatest gift giver in the world. I would put my brother as the number one gift giver in the world, genuinely. The lengths that he goes to put a smile on other people's faces is unlike anything I've ever seen in my entire life. Like, one example, we had a family vacation, and in the family vacation, he ask everyone a survey at the beginning of 10 different questions. One of the questions is, well, what is the word most likely to be used on the Danny Miranda podcast? Another question is, who is Poppy and Grandma's favorite grandchild? And he asked these questions, it's 10 questions like that, to um, 20 different people in our family. Everyone's like, why is Max asking these questions to us? What's going on? This man was taking all of those answers, and by the end of the family vacation, he had set up Family Feud based on those questions so that we could have family go against family. And he was Steve Harvey, and he does this amazing introduction, and it's just his way of expressing love. It's just his way of giving gifts. I told him, Max, you have to. It would. I said, Max, you got to share your information and knowledge on how to give gifts. The world is waiting for this. I need to include this in Divide Moments. I want a PDF on how to give gifts because you could do this professionally. You are the number one gift giver in the world. And he said, yeah, I'll get something for you. And I'm sure, I said, I want this by Valentine's Day. He gets very inspired by these moments and these occasions. So it's like, why Valentine's Day? Like, what are we selling? I need this document. So I have a lot of love for my brother. I have a lot of admiration for how, and he does this completely selflessly. He has no expectation of anyone recording it, putting it on social media, him getting credit for it. He doesn't want any of that. He just wants people to smile. And I love this man so much, and I'm so honored to be related to him. And on the piece of jealousy and how that was transmuted, it was transmuted because I started to step into my own freedom more and more. So every day that I stepped into the truth of who I was, that was another day of me getting closer to my brother. I didn't realize that in that moment, but that was the truth of it. And I gave a speech at his wedding where I said, hey, Max, I've done hundreds of hours of meditation just to be where you're naturally at. It is the truth. It really is the truth. So I have so much love for my brother. You turn the jealousy into admiration by owning yourself more. At least that was the case for me. And yeah, thank you for asking the question about him and giving me the floor on him because I love him so much.
Danny, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for the story that you shared with us. Thank you so much for the connection that we were able to experience here. I really, really appreciate you. Thank you so much, Dan.
I love you, dude. Thank you so much for the great questions, for the insight, for your presence, for your focus, for all the work you've done on yourself. It just shows in this conversation. So much love to you. Thank you.